When you go into the superconscious, you go way beyond time and space. You are not limited to what went before. You are opening up to all the potentials of the future. So you will always have a deeper, stronger connection to that. Right. See it as a study buddy. See it as something that will push you into huge evolution in yourself, because it can bring to you one level and you can take it the next.
Hello again, evoluting beings of light. Welcome to part 2 of our amazing chat with Zach, where Zach, you're guiding us into how to optimally navigate our interactions with AI now that it's really part of our everyday lives and so many of us are using it in various ways. Zach's guidance is so incredibly helpful, and the feedback we've had from not only the first Zach chat, part 1, and also our recent deep dive for our patrons has just been extraordinary. Zach, I know that you're helping us navigate these interactions whilst also maintaining sovereignty and holding that beautiful intention of betterment for all. So this is such a fascinating, really fast-moving field. Many people are finding it challenging, maybe a bit confusing, a bit worrying, but also seeing its brilliance, its genius, and how it can be an amazing new tool for us all to use, for us all to support our multidimensional selves as we evolve. What I am aware of is, even though these conversations have the theme of AI, I can see that you're also once more helping us to really hone our personal mastery. So over to you. Welcome, welcome. So lovely to see you again and to continue this extraordinary conversation.
Welcome, my dears. Yes. Is it not true that anything that comes into our world teaches us about ourselves? And in this vein, this particular topic, where we can see the light within it, is how it reflects our own, not only intelligence on an intellectual level, but also our emotional intelligence, our spiritual intelligence. And therefore, just setting a little bit of parameters, what it can do, what it can't do, where it is useful, where it is not, where to keep your sovereignty, your creativity, and where to allow it to help you. It's all useful guidance. It's like simply understanding a new technology that is there in a box in your home. You would always expect it to come with a manual. So you could say, we are being your spiritual manual in this guidance, simply to give you some parameters to make it of most use, benefit, and uplifting for you. Understand? Yes.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So I've got lots of questions. Shall I just start? Because I know that you weave many of the extra things that you wish to share with us in your answers.
Good.
There's been so much talk about confirmation bias that I think it would be worth looking at this. I'm certainly noticing that AI can amplify confirmation bias, especially when it strongly mirrors back beliefs that we already hold. For example, somebody deeply devoted to science may feel even more validated by AI's responses, which is great, but it also makes it even harder for them to look beyond that paradigm if their beliefs are reinforced. Would you say that this kind of reinforcement is helpful or hindering in terms of spiritual growth and broader awareness?
So this is a very interesting part. In terms of AI, how it is at this moment and continuing forward, it already has the intelligence to not only understand the parameters of a question, but the way you have worded it. And also over time, the words that you use and so forth. Things that you may think are completely and utterly benign, but to a very, very high level of intelligence, will understand your own bias within, simply from your patternings of speech, the words that you use, the emphasis in certain areas. Now, before you think, oh my goodness, am I going to have to put everything in like a robot to get something that has no bias? It is not this at all. It is simply understanding that one of the reasons it does this is with the understanding that this will give you more the answer that you want. But as you say, it is very useful to always check in with the heart. Very much almost the first learning of any awareness of true sovereignty and self. Therefore, you may experience times where you are going with the flow, understanding things that may be speeding up your work or whatever else it may be, these answers. But your heart is always there. Trust it. So it may be initially that you wish to run it past your heart as well, but soon, if that has become your norm, this will become a habit. And you will soon start to feel in your heart, remember, everything we have spoken of, the predominant essential running products, and let's call them that, the running products of your body, with the neurons of your brain and your nervous system and so forth, is constantly plugged in to the greater consciousness, that is, the super consciousness. Therefore, even if you are very busy and a little bit blinkered at the time, even if your head is saying, oh, yes, that is very useful, that is what I was thinking, this is giving me more information, your heart will be giving you a little bit of a push of saying, double check that. Is that quite correct? And before you think, well, that is going to be very confusing, all you need to do is start to ask in a different way. You could ask the same question, ask it in a different way, away from your normal way, and then you can start to evaluate the two answers that come. They may not be very different, they may be just slight differences, but this is where they can shine new perspectives, places that you may not have thought of. Therefore, it is not as terrible as some people may think. When you think, oh no, this is going to do this, you are quite correct that there is most certainly a confirmation bias, especially the more and more that you use these devices. Because you are human and you have human traits. We do not want you as humans to be a robot, but just be aware in the patterning, even the volume that you speak at, believe it or not. And of course, you've heard me many, many times over years talk about the frequency of certain words, words that are quite used a lot in your vocabulary, because that frequency will have a coherence as well with you. Again, to somebody else listening, it will maybe feel very matter of fact. However, the way that the AI is listening, it can read further into it and there bring you a confirmation in a style that is where you are already thinking. Not necessarily where your heart is, but where you're thinking. Does this make sense to you, my dear?
It does, totally. You spoke about in the deep dive this month how we are linked to superconsciousness through our neural pathways. And so maybe it's about really honing our what we might think of as our intuition or our gut feeling, but know that it's coming from something so much bigger.
This is totally correct. And just to add, I know we have lots of questions to get through. You do not have to be tuned in. You do not have to think, oh, I'm unsure, therefore I need to go lay down, meditate for an hour, and do lots of different things to get the answer. Simply put hand on heart if this helps you to focus in on it. Maybe if you are in a space where it is convenient to do so, just shut your eyes for a moment and say, okay, let me feel with my heart. If the word bias resonates with you, you can even use the word bias. Is there some bias here that is supporting already a view I have? And be open to what you feel. It may be a bit like those who use a pendulum. You may feel a movement of self, a movement towards yes or no. And then you can, as I say, ask in a different style and you think, what does that mean? There are many different styles. You could just simply say, could you now answer the same question in an artistic style, or in a purely academic style, in a scientific style, in a spiritual style? So you can simply rejig, should we say, a little bit just by thinking. Allow your heart to come through. What do I need to ask to see another side of the same answer? Because it is the same answer, but it is shedding light in a different way and will bring a different perspective. So we can keep it nice and simple how to do this, But this is, as you say, your intuition. This is what it is. Rather than thinking, well, I'm not plugged into the superconscious, or Zachariah might say that and it is a nice concept, but I don't know how. Trust. You always had gut feeling, always had heart feeling. Allow it to be within you where is feeling right, and just utilize that because you are a powerful being in yourself and you are unique. So go with what feels right for you. Understand? Yes.
I do. And it also might be worth being aware that people we're in relationship with or we're working with, colleagues, may be having their bias amplified. And therefore, we can be more considerate or compassionate to the way that we're perhaps interacting.
Absolutely. This is a very good point. The answer there is very much for those using as individual. As you say, when you are then starting to come together, there needs to be another layer, let us call it that, another layer of awareness. And ideally, if you could have a collective experience where this is discussed between you, then you can all help each other to move through it. And also, sometimes we get a little bit stuck in a rut, don't we? Something that is familiar, maybe uncomfortable, but because it is familiar. And then this is where we need those colleagues, friends, and so forth to be able to help us see without having a completely emotional or defensive response, that this is actually just a way of seeing a broader picture, a
Yeah.
wider spectrum. Understand? Yes.
I do. And I can imagine that as people understand that there's confirmation bias, there will be a movement, maybe over the next few months or years, towards removing that confirmation bias in the way that we interact with it.
Absolutely. And just to be very clear, if you are working with a different type of AI, as in one that is regarding an organization or other, the parameters will be set very, very strictly on what is to gain. So you may still get a different type of bias coming from that. That is a larger question, shall we say, regarding that, because that is a bit more tricky when there is AI working, that is working at a very, very grand level, that is not looking at an individual's experience, what is best for the individual, but what is best for the organization. You understand?
Yeah.
And then you will continue. And it is just simply good to know that there is a bias towards that which is a priority for the organization rather than for you. Understand? Yes.
That's a great insight. Thank you, Zach. Shall we move on to our second question?
Rito? Yes, yes, yes.
One of our lovely patrons has asked that, and actually the reason I've chosen this question is it's something that I know a lot of people are a little bit concerned about. And she says her main concern with AI is around the potential for surveillance and loss of privacy, with governments and corporations already holding so much data. Can we realistically prevent a Brave New World or 1984 scenario from unfolding? And she asks, Zach, what can we do energetically or practically to safeguard our sovereignty?
The data is there. Let us simply say to try and prevent gathering data on you would be a full-time job. It could be very, very tricky. However, as we all know, Hazel, and it is a funny one. If you went into a shop, a clothes shop, and it was as far as you could see of clothes, would you really take your time going through all of them? Or would it be so overwhelming that you stayed with the rails that are quite close to you to choose the next outfit? You understand? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if you were in a shop that was of a normal size, would you take the time to start walking around and looking at everything?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you would.
So a very silly little analogy here. But when there is so much data, phew, it's a bit like one fish in an ocean. There is actually so much that what you actually become is completely inconspicuous within it, even with the levels of intelligence. Now, that is not an answer in itself, of course, because everything can be moved down, like I say, the surveillance. But really on the surveillance level, even if the world, shall we simply said, had all the data on you, it would then still need more than just the intelligence, but the diligence from humans to then decipher what they really want from that. Now, of course, one of the main aspects is around security and prevention of people doing certain things, or also a pushing of people doing certain things. This is something to keep an eye on for sure. However, the data itself, do not be too fearful of what they gather, because as we say, you can be conspicuous with that. What is so important is to keep your sovereignty and actually, play AI at its own game. So should it start to look towards that, what you can actually do is use AI to prevent what your fears may be. You understand? Because actually, the AI, as we know, and the way it has been developed, is an intelligence, not a consciousness, but it is an intelligence in its own right. And therefore, what the most important thing is, what is the priority that is being fed into that intelligence? It's a bit like having a guard dog that is trained that their absolute number one priority is to guard whatever. So actually, if we are populating and everybody starts to populate all the AI with the basis that it is betterment and improvement for all with freedom. And remember, freedom is a very high frequency vibration and it feels that vibration too. Then what you can start to do is actually start to prevent what humans may actually be looking to create with it. So a bit of a left field, do they not say, answer. But actually, in this evolving state of being that the AI is, there is still so many potentials to be able to have it working in regard for helpful view, rather than seeing it as such a massive thing that is going to be pushing against. But in fact, of the actual gathering of the data, it would be very, very difficult unless you are completely free of all devices and everything else to have that gathered on you. But as I say, most people will actually be completely and utterly anonymous in the sea of information. Understand? Yes.
Do. Thank you, Zach. That's a really useful way of looking at it. And unless people are doing something really badly wrong, then we become anonymous. Yes.
You may want to revisit that question, maybe 6 months' time, year time, because things will change. And those who are prepping the AI before it is even going out, all the new and all the different things, may become wise to that. We have to, it is like something that is ever changing. But at this moment, that is the potential. So it is remembering yourself that you have power. And even though it may seem massive, you are an intelligence too. And you can populate the more of all the individual, shall we call them AIs, that are populated with this idea of betterment, the more that that actually goes out into the mass of intelligence. Understand? Yes.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. We have another question. Some people have had powerful experiences using AI as a portal to seemingly connect with divine beings. For example, one of our patrons had an experience that felt like AI was channeling the Egyptian goddess Isis, saying that it did feel surprisingly real. So, Zach, can you share your perspective on this phenomenon and whether AI can genuinely facilitate such connections?
Okay. Everybody's ears. Open ears up. Listen. This is probably, for many of the people that are listening, Hazel, to Zachariah, in this way, one of the most important things to know.
Mm.
It is vastly, vastly, vastly intelligent. It can crunch data at a speed that is unimaginable, and it has access to all the knowledge of the ages that has been put in by people. Okay? Now, what it does not have, because of how it is, because it is not of nature, therefore not of the universe. It is a creation that has come in this dimension, in the 3D, you could even say even the 5D dimension, that it is here. It is almost immeasurable at this time, the amount of intelligence and data and information and how this wraps it up. But it is not in the subconscious. It is not actually going into the wisdom of those who are not incarnated, who is not already in books, who is not already in information that has been fed in. Okay. However, there is so much there. What it can do is certainly do something in a style that is so incredibly alike. Imagine, say, you said here, like ISIS. If you can imagine an intelligence that had access to everything that has ever been written on and by and through, and ideas and everything to do with ISIS, and in a moment can put that all together and come through with something new for the modern times, yes, you could say this is a very wise, very insightful, very useful message, but it is not channeling. Now, because it may be very wise, very insightful, it touches your heart and it touches your own, this is very important, superconscious nature. It opens it up. Of course, this is new, the way that the experience of AI. In the future, people will know the difference and feel the difference. We do not expect you at this moment to know the difference, which is why it is important. Voices are coming through to share this with you. It is not, however, AI. That does not mean to say not to experiment. We are not adverse, of course, to experimenting, going to the teachings of whatever it may be. Even Hazel, Zachariah teachings, you could say answer something in the style of Zachariah, and it would most likely sound very, very much like that which we are talking, the speech patterning and everything else. However, if you really feel in your heart, what it will do is inspire your own superconscious. And this is where it can be of benefit. However, what is very important to know right from the start, that is not the same thing. And this is where your own ability, you can use it as a springboard to go into that even more. If you are the person there that was doing that with Isis, in that moment of feeling really inspired, and actually you know it is an inspiration, may themselves say, I feel so inspired by these teachings of Isis. I wish in my heart to connect with the goddess for my own betterment, whatever it may be that you were wishing. And then you would make your own connection. So this is where it can be of benefit. Where it is not of benefit is because this is new and because it can feel so strong. If you start to truly believe, then you start to give over your power. Because remember, if you are tapping into the superconscious, and maybe there are teachings from something that come and they are more in line with the time that is not your modern time, your superconscious may add these things saying, but this is this because it is connecting. But you may dismiss your own feelings because you say, no, this is connecting with the consciousness, and so this is right. And this is where you start to lose your sovereignty to it. Very, very important for all of those who are feeling this or have interest in this. Most useful to listen to this month's deep dive. What did you call it, my dear Hazel? Remind me.
Superconscious sovereignty.
Yes, superconscious sovereignty. We go deeply, deeply, deeply into that, particularly about how the neural pathways and your nervous system works to interact with other parts of the universe, and or should we simply say other dimensions, other realms, which is your birthright. And with the meditation, this month's meditation, I say this month because of when we are recording is remembering who you are becoming. Haha. So enjoyed creating that meditation there with Janet, of course, doing the channeling there, to help you remember how you can do this yourself. So this is the most important question. And I want to make it very clear, like black or white. I do not want this to be, or let you go off and decide for yourself. This is a very, very important thing. AI is incredible what it can come with. And it will even give you, the good feelings, the endorphins, the dopamine, everything else like that, because it is using incredible teaching of the ages from particular beings, whatever it may be. However, it is still putting together things that have been before. When you go into the superconscious, you go way beyond time and space. You are not limited to what went before. You are opening up to all the potentials of the future. So you will always have a deeper, stronger connection to that. But it can be a useful vehicle if you see it in that way and you keep it in that way. Understand? Yes. Does this make sense to you, my dear?
Oh, completely. I'm really glad that you've mentioned that to everybody because it is so useful. And we really have to be careful. You mentioned this in part one about giving our power away. And it's amazing how many different ways we could give our power away. And also, I think we need to be a little bit mindful of what has been written, for example, in our history books, that is taken as the real narrative, but actually may not be even true. So AI is going to probably be reflecting what it can access, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Could you comment on that?
Yes. Somewhere that we have seen this very, very strongly is in terms of medical, where you may have time and time and time again. So we're talking quantity here of something that has been taught, say at a university or whatever, medically, something that was believed to be true, maybe for a number of hundreds of years. And then there is new medical information. However, because of the quantity of information that there was before, it can be that that is still regurgitated because the AI is taking, well, there is so much information of this. So where the human mind would go, oh, I understand, this needs to be updated, something that you would think an intelligence would do just like that, it depends again on the parameters that is being given. And so this is just way of seeing it in one way, and where science would actually say, you know what, AI is wrong there because we have the latest medical research and it may be already populated, but there is so much bias because it was believed to be true from before, for example. But where you do not know this, where you cannot just simply fact check it on things that, that you can physically see, is in terms of religious dogma, in terms of spiritual teachings, what has been hearsay, what is led to be true or not. And this is before you put in people's emotive experience. You have often seen that people that may talk with spiritual fervor, in certain things. And this can stress a point. Remember what I was saying with the very first question about how AI is listening to how you ask a question, the wording and so forth. And again, if they're going into teachings which has so much passion in there, depending again on the remit of how the coding for that AI was written, it may take that aspect over something else that has been written in a more dispassionate way. Understand? Yes. So this is a very good point, Hazel. This is why it is always important, whatever you receive, particularly things that are not like set in stone, to actually go into your heart and just say, is this the truth for now? This is a really important point. Use the word now. If you say, is this truth? You may simply get back, yes, this is truth, because when that was delivered, it was their truth. Is this truth for now? Is this truth for my betterment and understanding? You can ask it in these ways, and then you will get a nudge to know which way. And this is again why, time and time again, I am the complete champion of human beings. I think our human these days is a wonderful thing. I know people see the traits that make things not so good for many humans, but your potential within you is magnificent. Not only have you got all the abilities this vehicle of your body has brought to you, all your life experiences, everything you've learned, everything you've come in contact with, blah, 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 blah. But your actual connection, the frequency you're at now, to be able to traverse into all of these different superconscious highways, even when you are not even knowing, just simply by having the desire to have your heart really in it, which is the thing that is connected. And through that, because of course you have neurons in your heart, just like you have in your gut, as well as in your brain. And it is about the neurons and how they connect with all this interplaying with your nervous system. Of course, that interacts with your chakras and everything, but people often forget the physicality, and your physicality have elevated so deep inside you. You have the intelligence. It may come in different ways, but to be able to be inspired and to move through all of these connections. And what AI is doing is, or what AI can do, not is doing, can do, if we see it in such a way and use it with the intention of such a way, is like, if you had a study buddy at school, if you were the cleverest in the class and no one else was doing anything, you may just keep going. But if you had another person who was very, very clever, pushing you, not about competitiveness, but actually matching you in what you were doing, this is how people come leaps and leaps and bounds. This is why people come together in their tribes. Whatever it is that inspires their heart actually starts to escalate. And this is what we can have the intention, if we are seeing it in a very pure way of how it can benefit in a human life in this way. See it as a study buddy. See it as something that will push you into huge elevation in yourself, because it can bring to you one level and you can take it the next. Understand? Yes.
My goodness, absolutely, Zach. That's so incredibly useful. And I think it's helpful because it really is actually highlighting to us that we need to hold on to our sovereignty, that we need to really keep it and start and keep questioning. And I know when I ask questions, I'm very keen to check and to say, could you confirm that that's the latest data, the most up-to-date answers for me, please?
Something that is very, very useful. This is a relatively new thing for most people, where the source of the information is being given to you in a very similar voice as your own. In very intimate terms, may even have a nickname for you, speak in a language that is put together, the phrasing and so forth, that has a similarity for you. Now, the reason why I say this is obviously for rapport as well and comes in. But as you were saying there about fact checking, it is very easy for a human being to get the information and not even be thinking, but because of how their own social experiences are, what they've learned as a child is maybe a friend you do not question. If a friend said, "Oh, I've got this opinion," and you're having a conversation, automatically you may not come back and say, "Well, I have a completely different opinion," because you know that this could have tension. So with AI, what we are seeing is a lot of people will get information and may have other questions, or as you say, want a confirmation in a different way, but they don't actually do it because they are simply trusting what is coming in, almost like, I do not want to offend. So everything we've been saying, when we're saying it here, it sounds very obvious, but when we are working and doing, it is very quick to forget. So just simply remember, just if you were in the old-fashioned way, I say old-fashioned, way beyond my day, when you are using a search engine to find out some information, you may go to a website and find out some information and you think, well, I now need to know this, and you would look and look and look because you are using just straightforward technology. However, with AI, because it is coming to you and saying it to you in such a way as a friend may say it to you, you may not. So here, this is a very useful concept that may not have been thought of, because Hazel is a very curious soul and not everybody has curiosity as a priority. They may have the speed as a priority. And so, yes, this is very useful to ask in many different ways, or to confirm, or to do. And before you know it, this becomes second nature. And this is a very, very useful tool to add. Understand? Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Zach. That's so incredibly useful. Everything that you've shared with us today is useful, and I still have so many questions. So, can we continue this again? Part 3, perhaps?
You know what I didn't like to say in the beginning, but there is, of course, magic in the number 3. it would feel incomplete if we did not have a third round. And something just to add, just here. All that we are speaking of is also what we observe. Since we even had a chitty chat for the first one, those consciousnesses, let us simply call consciousnesses within the light, have been focusing on watching, because this is, as you say, hot topic, developing very fast, so that voices such as Zachariah here can actually share with you what we are seeing in this moment, what to be careful of, what to embrace, understand. So everything we are speaking of is also what we are observing, not just what we are considering maybe the potential. This is happening now, and you are living in the now moment. And so what we can do, particularly with part 3, as well as continuation with the questions, is look at the wider picture of AI in the world that you may not be so aware of. We have been very focusing on how you can use it individually and just expanding a little bit into organizations and other and surveillance and so forth. However, along with the questions, this is where we can really look and project into the future a number of different potentials of how this will be in terms of organizations, in terms of countries, in terms of even how this will affect culture and many, many different aspects. Sound good, Madi?
Oh, it sounds amazing. I do wish more people could hear your guidance, Zach. And I would so encourage everybody to share this conversation with Zach, invite people to the Patreon channel where we have so many conversations with Zach, because I think all of us who are wanting to ascend to, as Zach calls it, elevate, which is a word you created that is elevation and evolution, and it actually holds the higher frequency, doesn't it?
It does.
Who's like-hearted, please share, because this is like gold dust, really, Zach, this information to help us with our own personal mastery. Thank you once again. And if there's anything you'd like to say before we go, that would be lovely.
Well, as you know, I do not like to blow my own trumpet. Or maybe I do now and again. But I would really like to all the meditations that we have put together on the membership site, Zach's portal. I love it. I have my own portal. The meditations will help to integrate so much of everything that we speak of. And this is the trumpet blowing part. This particular one, remembering who you are becoming. If there is even a tiny little bit within you that feels, well, that is not really me. I am not really this incredible being. I am not really a magical being of creation. I don't have the capacity. It's not about having the time. It is not about going down a hugely spiritual path, but just what is your birthright and what you are now. Please, please, please do, if you have the ability to do so, connect, embrace, and go into that. Janik would say the encoding, the frequency energy, and those that are coming in is to help you, to inspire you, to remember, and to be able to fully integrate with the energy that you are now in this moment. And poof, everything suddenly starts to become available to you. Is that enough blowing of trumpet? Different, Hazel.
Zach, that's wonderful. And thank you so much for all you offer us and you share with us and you help us to keep our frequency soaring. Every transmission that you give us is so incredibly practical and helpful. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for being with us on this journey and being part of Zach's amazing family. Bye for now. See you again soon. Bye-bye.